Good morning, Dan, and welcome to our two-part mini-series on prophecy. In this series, we're going to take a look at what is predictive prophecy and non-predictive prophecy. Right off the bat, I want to say how excited I am about this series. This is one of the greatest treasure hunts I've done in Hebrew, and I'm actually surprised that this isn't common knowledge among Christians. It should be, because it's a massive tool. It's a huge encouragement. Things like this are what galvanize my faith in Christ. So before we continue, we're going to define what is predictive prophecy and non-predictive prophecy. Now, predictive prophecy is when God or the author is purposefully trying to say what will happen in the future. Non-predictive prophecy is when the author is unknowingly saying what will happen in the future. Now, distinguishing these two can really help you when reading the Old Testament. So we're going to take a look at probably the most well-known non-predictive prophecy in the Bible, Psalm 22. This is the precious prophecy of the crucifixion of Christ. We're just going to take a look at the main verses. Verse 1, my God, why have you forsaken me? Now, David is not trying to prophesy. He's not saying what's going to happen in the future. He's just saying how he feels. And he's saying it this way, Eli, Eli, lama azavtani. Now, we can find this in Matthew 27:46. Down here, Jesus cries out with a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That's the Aramaic for, my God, why have you forsaken me? Our next verse we're going to look at is verse 8. Commit yourself to the Lord. Let him deliver him. Let him rescue him, because he delights in him. This is what the people standing around Jesus are using to mock him, to make fun of him. And we're going to see that in verse 43. He trusts in God. Let God rescue him now, if he delights in him. Wow. Same thing. Okay, and verse 16 of Psalm 22, the famous verse. For dogs have surrounded me, a band of evildoers has encompassed me. They pierced my hands and my feet. Wow, this is 1,000 years before Christ. This is way before they even invented crucifixion. Okay, let's look at the last verse real quick, verse 18. They divide my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots. We're going to find that in verse 35 of Matthew. And when they had crucified him, they divided up his garments among themselves by casting lots. Incredible, striking prophecy of the crucifixion. Now, what we're going to focus on is verse 16. They pierced my hands and my feet. Now, modern Israeli rabbis, Jewish rabbis today, they cannot stand this verse because they can see how clearly it points to the crucifixion. But they have an objection. They say, this verse is translated wrong. It shouldn't be, they pierced my hands and my feet. It should be, like a lion, they are at my hands and my feet. So, are they right? Well, let's look at the Hebrew. Here it is right here. Ka'ari yadai viraglai. It says, in Hebrew, this is the Masoretic text, which our Bibles are based on. It says, like a lion. What's going on here? Okay, this kaf right here is the letter for like, and this word, ari. We had a dog we named Ari. When he was a puppy, he was a little fat and fluffy. He reminded us of a lion. So we named him Ari. And this says ka'ari, like a lion. Rashi, the ultimate big gun for the ancient rabbis, he says what it's saying is, like a lion, they mauled my hands and my feet. Like they're, biting, mauling, ripping, tearing at his hands and feet. They're definitely not licking his hands and feet. And if that's what it was, if it stopped here, that'd be fine with me. That works for me. That still fits with the crucifixion, but it doesn't stop here. We need to check out what's going on with this. This is where we do the digging. This is where we find the treasure, and the treasure is awesome. Now, the oldest translation we have of this text is the Septuagint, and the Septuagint translators used ka'aru, which is they pierced, not ka'ari, like a lion. Why? The oldest manuscript we have of this, older than the Masoretic text, is the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, the Dead Sea Scrolls are the greatest archaeological discovery, like in the universe, practically. They are the big guns for manuscripts, the go-to guys. So we are going to go to them. And today, we can see all the Dead Sea Scrolls in high definition scans. This is the Israeli Antiquities Authority website. And this is the manuscript we're talking about here. This is the little fragment that has been preserved of this exact section we're talking about. Now, my eye can see it because I know Hebrew, I'm used to it. It's right here. I'm going to show you how you can see it as well. And you don't have to know Hebrew to figure this out. If you know the alphabet, it's enough. Even if you don't know the alphabet, you'll still be able to see what I'm talking about. Here is a kind of more contrastive picture of the same fragment. Right here, we're going to be analyzing this one, and we're going to be looking at this fragment from the same scroll, from the same hand. This is not the section exactly, but I'm going to show you how I pick out the letters. I'm going to outline them for you so you can see the letters for yourself. So for that, we're going to go to our Hebrew. Before that, I want to show you exactly what's going on in the Hebrew. Now, the Masoretic text says ka'ari, like a lion, and the vast majority of the Masoretic texts have this ka'ari. There are a handful that have ka'aru, they pierced, but the vast majority say ka'ari. Now, we're going to figure out what the Dead Sea Scrolls have to say about it to put this to rest. So you can see these two words are almost identical. The first part is identical. Kaf, kaf, exactly. Aleph, aleph, exactly. Resh, resh, exactly. The only part where it's different is this last part, the yod and the vav. And you can see how these two letters are similar. And in the previous videos, we talked about copyist errors, scribal errors, and how they happen in the Bible. And this is one of them. So if you just cut off this little part of the vav, then it's a yod, and you have ka'ari, like a lion. Here are the letters next to each other. You can see how similar they are. Again, if you cut it off here, then you have two of the same letters. Or if you just elongate it a little bit, you have a vav. So that's what's going on. Is there an example in English? Yes, really good one. Forgive my handwriting, I'm using a mouse. What does this say in English? Aim. I aim to please. But if you just add the slightest elongated part here, what does it say now? Dim. What? Totally different word, unrelated, just by adding the slightest little thing. And that's what's going on here. So, is it possible that the Dead Sea Scrolls have the Vav instead of the Yod? And can we see it? Yes, we can. So, before we get into our fragment, I want to show you what these letters look like when it's clearly, this fragment is preserved better. So the first one we're looking for is Kaf, and I'm going to outline it for you here. So here's a Kaf, crystal clear. Next, Resh, again, crystal clear, right here. And Aleph, beautiful little Aleph. And then we need to find a Vav, up here is one. And remember, I said the Vav is the long one. Then a Yod. Here are two Yods. You can see how they're not long. They're short. So here's the yod, here's the vav. These are all the letters in question. Here is yod and vav next to each other. You can see the vav is longer, the yod is shorter. This word is yoshevet. That's a easy, common word to read. Okay, we got to save it so that I can zoom and show you the next slide. Okay, we got that saved. Let's get to our fragment right here. Okay, I've got to zoom up one more time. Okay, here on the side you can see the letters we are hunting for. Now, we are going to enhance this manuscript so you can see it a little better. We're just going to make it a little more contrastive. Okay, you see how the letters kind of pop out a little more? A little more contrast. Okay, and we'll save that so we can draw on it. Okay, now we're ready to go. So the first letter we're looking for is kaf. Right here. You can see it. Let me get my pen out. Okay, here it is. Kaf. That's this letter. Next is the aleph. We need to find the aleph. You can already see it right there, even without me pointing it out. There's the aleph. Next is the resh. Right here. Here's the resh. And then, finally, the vav. Is it a vav or a short yod? You can already see it's long. It is not a short yod. It is the long vav, which makes ka'aru, not ka'ari. This is, in Hebrew, they pierced. Wow. Okay, look, we can see another vav over here. Long. Here's a short yod. Okay, you can see it. This is amazing. This is the treasure of treasures. Why? Because this is a prophecy 1,000 years before Christ of his death, of how they would pierce his hands and his feet before crucifixion was even invented. The implications of this are mind-blowing. Jesus was who he said he was. Now, remember at the beginning I said that with non-predictive prophecy, the authors were not purposefully trying to predict the future, they were unknowingly doing it. And another good example is in John 11, if you remember Caiaphas, the high priest. Now, remember Caiaphas, he was an enemy of God. This guy hated Jesus. He wanted him dead. He was trying to get him crucified. And in verse 49 it says, "But one of them, Caiaphas, who was the high priest that year, said to them, 'You know nothing at all, nor do you take into account that it is expedient for you that one man die for the people, and that the whole nation not perish.'" Now, he did not say this on his own initiative, or he wasn't saying it on purpose, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus was going to die for the nation and not for the nation only. This is amazing. So this enemy of God, God used for his glory. And so another thing about non-predictive prophecy is that you don't really know it's a prophecy until after the fact. When it's fulfilled, you can look back retrospectively and you can say, wow, this was written about. So you might say, well, what's the point? Well, the point is that when you look back and you see that it was written about, you know that God has everything, including our will, perfectly under his control. And that's pretty shocking. So this is our lesson on non-predictive prophecy. The next video, part 2, is on predictive prophecy. It's amazing. You can click on the link at the end of this video. That's it for today. Hope you liked this one. I'm looking forward to your next video. See you later.